Hello and welcome to another episode of Becco Movies. I'm discussing today the DCEU as a whole, just to change it a little bit, not just to talk about the Snyderverse and the Snyderverse main movies timeline, but to talk about the DCEU in general, which, as I have mentioned before, the Snyderverse is different from the DCEU. It is part of the DCEU, okay, but a lot of the DCEU movies don't even belong in the Snyderverse, but that's a video that I have made before, so you can see that one about the what is the Snyderverse. So the DCEU, basically a lot of people mention it, that it starts technically with the Snyderverse. If you think about it, it starts with Man of Steel, which is in 2013. That was the first movie Superman introduced as the leader of the Justice League. Of course, WB was running to catch up with Marvel because they were just finishing the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, and they start with Superman, which I still think is some kind of mistake. They should have started with Batman, but anyway, they start with Superman. They did a really good job. Then of course this was followed by I'm going to talk about the timeline as in chronologically. This usually is followed by the 2016 Batman v Superman. Okay, so that was Batman fighting Superman. Again, this is all going well and everything. Even the 2016 Suicide Squad, basically that is another movie that was going really well. And yes, nobody cares about Rotten Tomatoes. I chose this image basically because it shows the clear timeline of the DCEU. I could not care less about Rotten Tomatoes. It is a broken system. That's a discussion for another video. And then of course you have Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot in 2017, which has made a lot, crap loads of money, man. The same thing with Aquaman 2018, made a lot of money. Even the butchered version of Justice League, which is in 2017, which was again rushed by the studio so that they can get their bonuses, made money. Whether, you know, we like to admit it or not, it made money, but it wasn't a good movie. It was a butchered version of Zack Snyder's original Justice League. This one was redirected by Joss Whedon. Then I think at this stage, I mean, apart from the obviously butchered Snyder cut, butchered Air cut, and the half an hour removed from Batman v Superman, then you get Shazam in 2019. This was, I think, this one and Aquaman basically as movies. I'm talking about as movies, not butchered versions, where you had jokes in Justice League inserted, and the same thing in the Air cut, in the Suicide Squad, the theatrical version, which was horrible, the Studio Squad, as some people called it. Shazam was the first one. I was like, oh, they are going full Marvel. This movie is joke. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. And the funny thing is about these movies, unlike the Snyderverse movies, which are rewatchable again and again. Yes, it doesn't have a lot of jokes, but you don't have a lot of jokes to have a good movie. Not everything has to be MCU, cringy ass humor. Shazam was the first one. I was like, yep, they are going for the comedy bit. Which again, for this movie, a boy in a man's body, all this stuff, you know, going to a strip club, drinking, it's like, it's funny, you know, it's like Tom Hanks' movie, Big. Fine, it kind of worked, and also it had a low budget, so it wasn't a failure, at least financially. It made money. But this is where they really went full Hamadaverse. This is where Walter Hamada took over, and he had freaking Peter Safran with him, producing most of these rubbish movies that I will talk about. For me, for a lot of people, I think the butchered version of Justice League is the worst movie. For me, it's Birds of Prey. This movie, I can talk for hours on how bad and cringy and unfunny this movie is. Oh no, we don't need Joker, we just need Harley Quinn. No, you need Joker with Harley Quinn. Okay, Joker can work alone, as we can see we've seen from the Joker movie, Todd Phillips movie. Harley Quinn doesn't work alone, especially if it's a horrible movie like this. And this was, by the way, supposed to be Gotham City Sirens with David Ayer, and then I think it was Gavin O'Connor who was supposed to be directing it. But again, they wanted to make it into a comedy. He told them no, he left. And then, of course, another horrible movie, which is Wonder Woman 84. Horrible movie. I mean, the CGI, the fight scenes. And the funny thing is, it's the same actress, the same director from the first movie, but the movie did not work whatsoever. And even there were rumors that they got the Cirque du Soleil, the circus people, to direct some of the action or to inspire them to direct some of the action. It shows in the movie, by the way. It's like it's not part 2 to Wonder Woman of 2017. Two totally different movies. Again, horrible movie. And these are the movies where they start to break canon big time, as in to try and move away from the Snyderverse. You can see that very clear from these movies. They were made not with love like the Snyderverse movies, they were made with hate. Because they wanted to get rid of Joker in Harley Quinn, they wanted to get rid of Wonder Woman and her relationship to the Justice League, where she said, I moved away from mankind for 100 years, whatever. In this movie, she was being videotaped. I mean, like I said, there are much better videos criticizing these horrible movies, and they did a really good job of analyzing these movies. Anyway, and then of course we had some good news, which is the release of the Snyder Cut in 2021, which again, because of the pandemic, theaters were closed, there was a pressure from the fans, they were just not happy. Like I said, I mean, Shazam you can tolerate, but Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman 84, I think these two movies are what pushed the DC fans to say, you know what, we like Zack Snyder, we don't like Zack Snyder, it doesn't matter anymore. We want the Snyderverse back. At least it took the characters some kind of seriously. So there was a glimmer of hope when the Justice League, the Snyder Cut was released. But then, of course, freaking James Gunn started interfering with the whole process, and he made The Suicide Squad, which is, again, another horrible, cringy movie. Not funny, horrible action. Again, they tried to focus on Harley Quinn. He purposely on purpose killed most of the David Ayer Suicide Squad characters. If you see the beginning of the movie, it is basically a hateful person just trying to kill anything good that David Ayer did with these characters. The comedy didn't work. Harley Quinn, nothing worked in this movie, especially Peacemaker. Peacemaker was not funny. He was just not. The whole, when they killed all these villagers, and because they thought they were bad guys, and then they turned out to be the good guys. I mean, that's supposed to be funny? Not funny, again. And this movie bombed. It lost like $100 million at the box office. And no, it's not because of the pandemic. It lost money. And then this is where basically freaking James Gunn kind of completely took over, almost took over, because we got the The Rock, Black Adam, which again had another glimmer of hope when they reintroduced Henry Cavill as Superman at the end of the movie, but it was a little bit too late. And I love the movie, I love the score, I talk about it on X all the time, on Twitter. I loved Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, even the guy who played Hawkman, really good actor. Amazing movie, some unwanted comedy, but again, it had hope because The Rock is smart. He didn't want to go all serious, but you can see that he was respecting Snyder in his movie. A lot of homages. When The Rock falls in water, that's taken straight out of Man of Steel, and he's floating in water. But again, The Rock was pulled over from under him. A big guy like him, who would have thought, man, by freaking... Anyway, I don't want to say what James Gunn used to like in the past, what kind of age group he likes. Anyway, the point is he started doing his rubbish. And it's basically continuation of The Suicide Squad, by the way. He's horrible, The Suicide Squad, which is a horrible movie, because it's his Amanda Waller, his Peacemaker, and it had 2 seasons of a TV show that nobody watched. So that it's just unsalvageable. That's another movie that should be thrown in the rubbish. And then you had, by the way, if you think about it, the Shazam and the Flash and Blue Beetle, Shazam Part 2, all 3 of them were released in 2023, which and Aquaman Part 2, by the way, which I still call it the year of the flop, because all these just think about it, man, 4 major DC movies releases in major theaters, large number of theaters with huge budgets behind them, especially the Flash, and that had Michael Keaton coming back, and everyone, coming in their pants basically. Oh, Michael Keaton's coming back. And it's like, I was like, wait, and the movie flopped big time, because again, they did these movies on purpose to try and reboot the Snyderverse, and they did not work. Blue Beetle, I think, had potential, but it's just that movie went nowhere. And Aquaman 2, again, Aquaman 1 made $1 billion. The second one, nothing, man, nothing. And the eating cockroach joke at the end, which is obviously a middle finger to the Snyderverse fans, which didn't work, it doesn't work, etc. It's not funny. And the fact they removed the Aquaman Ben Affleck's Batfleck scenes from Aquaman 2. They removed the, I think from The Flash, they had Henry Cavill at the end with Sasha Calle, Supergirl. Again, they removed these cameos because they did not want to remind the fans of what is much better than the DCEU, which is basically became the Gunverse at this stage. So as you can see from looking at this timeline, it's basically three timelines if you think about it. The Snyderverse movies, the first few movies, they were really good, really successful. They took everything seriously, which is fine. Then you have the Hamadaverse, especially starting from Birds of Prey, maybe Shazam to a certain extent, but mainly Birds of Prey. And then you got the Gunverse, especially starting with the Suicide Squad. You can say maybe the Rockverse, poor The Rock. I mean, one movie with Black Adam was trying to start his own universe with the Justice Society of America, which had potential. And then obviously the DCU finished with Aquaman 2, which is, you know, horrible movie. But again, to clarify, most of these movies are horrible. Only the Snyder movies are salvageable. But I'm just trying to be as objective as possible. Apart from the main Snyderverse movies, which are, again, repeat them, Man of Steel, BVS, Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Air Cut of Suicide Squad, hopefully when it's released, Wonder Woman 2017, and obviously, yeah, like I said, Zack Snyder's Justice League. These are the only movies you can classify as Snyderverse. The rest, I would say, are unsalvageable. Apart from maybe Shazam. If you maybe take the character a little bit more seriously, the jokes a little bit funnier. Birds of Prey, it's dead in the water. Wonder Woman 84, horrible. The Suicide Squad by James Gunn, horrible. Peacemaker, horrible. Black Adam has a huge potential. Yes, it can be salvaged, especially if you get The Rock back. You get Justice Society of America, you get the same actors, you get the same Lauren Bacall to do the score again. He did an amazing job. The Flash is unsalvageable, maybe as a flashpoint, but this is at the end of the Snyderverse to reboot everything. Again, not the same director. Horrible movie and horrible CGI. Blue Beetle has potential as well, by the way, just like Shazam. Because the suit looked fine, the actor was fine, it was about family and all this stuff, but you know, the comedy was a little bit too much. Aquaman, to be honest, I mean, like I said, these are the only movies that I would salvage, but Aquaman is an odd one because the first one did make $1 billion, whether we like it or not. It was popular, although mainly because women wanted to see Jason Momoa in water, basically, so that they would, you know what I'm gonna say. Anyway, but seeing Aquaman 2, I was like, nah, this is not salvageable. Again, keep Jason Momoa as Aquaman, it's fine. But Aquaman as a trilogy, it doesn't need to happen. 1 and 2 is more than enough. So this is what I would do. Maybe Blue Beetle and Shazam can be salvaged, and definitely Black Adam. But the rest of the non-Snyderverse movies are dead in the water. You cannot salvage them, I'm sorry. Becco Movies out.